there, gorgeous. Welcome to another episode of Harmonious Wealth. I am your host, Iyanna Vaughn, and today we're going to be tackling one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to business finance. Come here. How to pay yourself as a CEO the right way. So, too many business owners see their salary as like an afterthought, something that's nice to have, something that eventually that they'll, grow into. But your salary as a CEO is the cornerstone of your financial strategy, not just an expense, not just a luxury, but a necessity. So you might be wondering, how do you figure out what your salary should be? How do you ensure that you're not just getting by, but you're actually building a lifestyle and long-term wealth because of your paycheck? So when I think of creating long-term wealth, it's really just increasing and improving steadily your net worth over time. And when I think about like the cash flow quadrant, we're going to be talking about as an employee and how you can build wealth there through obliterating your debt, through saving, through having the resources to be able to invest from your personal life. So this is just one little area that we're talking about. So let's talk paychecks. But before we dive in, I want to ask you a question. Do you have a set amount that you pay yourself as a CEO, or do you pay yourself what's left over at the end of the month from your business? Let me know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or send me a DM if like, girl, I resonated with this. Let me know. So, your financial strategy starts with what you want to pay yourself from your business. So, once you understand what you need to pay yourself, it produces an ideal revenue goal to start. And then, based on that revenue goal, you can create your profit goals. So, it's really just reversing like your financial strategy as a whole. If you ever heard of the term the 50/20/30 budgeting system, your girl is here for you. So I've been using that budgeting system for over 10 years now. Before I even started my business, I was like a blogger. I put air quotes because I was very inconsistent. But one of the things I like to talk about was personal finances, as well as like being a mom and having a toddler at the time. And the 50/20/30 budgeting system includes 50% is from like your living expenses, 20% is going to be like your debt and savings goals, and then the 30% is your lifestyle. So in this season, I kind of switched it up just a tad bit. So I still have 50% being contributed to like my fixed expenses or my living expenses. And I do 30% is like the necessities. So the 10% is going to go to tithing, the other 20%, which is going to be savings and debt, that interchanges. It might be 10% here, 10% there, but that overall is going to be like your savings and your debt payments, as well as like some investing, right? And then the rest of my take home pay, which is at 20%, is going to be my lifestyle. And that includes like entertainment, like beauty treatments. A girl gotta make sure she has her eyebrows and her lashes done right in certain seasons, or making sure that you have a budget for takeout or dining out or entertainment, things like that. And one thing that I'm excited about, I feel extremely blessed in this season, is all of my medical expenses are actually business deductions. So because I am taxed as an S corp, right? I am an employee of my business, and a part of my compensation plan is to have my healthcare premiums be paid through the business, and that's going to be on my W-2 as a business expense, right? And I also contribute to my HSA, which is the health savings account from my business as well. So this year, I'm not paying for a pad on my personal expenses, okay? It'll be through contributions from my business with my HSA card, and I am swiping that thing like Fruit Ninja. I got my Aura ring because of my HSA, so it felt free, but really that's a whole nother topic for another day. So also my business contributes to my 401k through, so then that means I'm investing long term for my retirement, things of that nature. So The reason why we really need to lock in on what we need to pay ourselves as a CEO is because it's non negotiable. There were seasons in my business where I had life changing events occur, and that really shattered my confidence because I had lack of confidence or I was insecure about my business in that season. I would like overconsume, buy different courses. I would overconsume, go to multiple different coaching containers. I would have team and I would underprice my services while overpaying my team. But I had to reel everything in and say, okay, Iyanna, long term, how is this really going to help you? You know, how are you really going to thrive and not resent your business? But then I was like, okay, what is it? Let me just do what I do for my clients, what I've done in the past. Let me kind of wipe my hands up and do what I need to do. So I decided to say, okay, I'm going to pay myself a full, juicy salary every single month so that my take home pay is substantial for where I am living now. So, say for instance, I'm in the state of Georgia, and by the grace of God, our home expenses for my daughter and I are relatively lower than others in the nation, right? So, I'm able to afford to have my fixed expenses be 50% of my take home pay. Say, for instance, for me, 50% of my salary, my take home pay goes towards my mortgage, my HOA, my utilities, my groceries, you know, that's a necessity, my life insurance, things of that nature. And then I'm able to have that excess, or really not excess, but because it's planned. So it's important to live off of the golden goal of 50% of your take home pay. It might be 60 in this season. It might be 70. It might be 80. But the idea is to continuously earn more so that you can live off of less, or live off of less and really create a spending plan that really suits your needs. So then that way, all of your take home pay isn't going towards necessities, it's going towards you saving, paying off debt, increasing your net worth, you know, enjoying, you know, travel and furnishing your home, things of that nature. So, say for instance, your take home pay was about $8,000 net pay, and your fixed expenses were about 4,000. You know, what does that look like? I have something amazing that can get you started. So then that way you can really understand what your take home pay really should be. And it's called the CEO Salary Calculator. So you can get that at lovelyfinancials.com/CEO to get started. What it'll do, it'll tell you, okay, list all of your expenses, list all of your flexible expenses like dining out, takeout, entertainment, things of that nature, and it'll compute based off of what you want to live off of. That might be 60% in this season or 50, and then it'll tell you what your take home pay should be based off of living off of only 50% of your take home salary. Then it'll create an ideal revenue goal based on what your take home pay should be. So then that way you're not going to create random revenue goals. So the other 50% of your take home pay is going to be in two different buckets. So it's going to be your financial priorities, and then it's going to be your lifestyle. So the financial priorities for me, and this doesn't have to be your rule, is going to be 30%. So 10% is going to go towards tithing. So this is something that I've exercised as of the last year, and I'm not going back. Like, it really tithing really changed my life. I'll do an episode separately on like tithing, but tithing lets me know, lets God know, he already knows, right? That I can trust him no matter where my money is, I can still give my 10%. And that literally changed the game because it really improved my belief system. It really told me that I can trust God no matter what anything says, no matter what I'm getting, 10% needs to go straight to him. From my take home pay from the business, I just have a tithing account, a whole separate tithing account so that it's out the way. I don't miss it. It's separate. And then the other 20% of that financial priorities, docket will be either savings and paying off debt. And it might be like micro investing. Maybe I'm putting something in my Roth IRA. Maybe I'm putting something in my high yield savings account. And I name things a little differently. I don't name my savings emergency savings because I feel like if you're going to say it's an emergency, it's going to happen. So I just call it, personally, I call it my treasure trove. So I'm growing my treasure trove to be able to help me be work optional eventually. And I have a goal of saving a year's worth of expenses in there in my treasure trove account. So it really excites me that I'm able to grow that account as I'm overall, like my last financial priority would be paying off certain debt, right? So those things, they change depending on the season. So I really, I like to do things where it's gradual, where maybe I'm paying off all my credit card debt and then I'm still contributing to my treasure trove, but until I reach a certain point in paying off the debt, I'm just kind of decreasing what I'm saving. Or I might be saving intentionally and then I've reached a place mark where, okay, I'm good with this payoff. Let me just kind of, do a little bit above the minimal just to keep my interest rates down. So it really depends, it really depends, but the 30% goes towards financial priorities. So the last 20% for me is going to be thriving. So it might be saving for a trip. It might be entertainment in this quarter, like say Q2. I'm recording this in Q2 or right before. Actually, I'm technically recording in March, but let's say Q2 is when I want to go on like a mini spring break trip with my daughter. I'm saving towards that. I'm putting that from my lifestyle goal bucket to that account. Or in this season, I want to get my lashes done every 2 to 3 weeks and making sure I budget for that and making sure that like I budget for my daughter and I our hair to get like maintenance and trimmed at least every quarter. So it really, depends on where your lifestyle is. And if you get that CEO salary calculator, girl, it's going to help you. So again, go to lovelyfinancials.com/CEO so that you can get your hands on the CEO lifestyle calculator. Okay. So final recap, our CEO salary is the cornerstone of our financial strategy. When we have lifestyle businesses such as we're a service provider, we're a coach, we're a consultant, we are selling our intellectual property. When you have businesses such as that, I consider it a lifestyle business because you're using most of your effort, right, to create that business from scratch. And you're utilizing the gifts that God has given you to provide a service, and you need to be compensated. So, if you enjoyed this video and you made it to the end, let me know how you will be restructuring your CEO salary after listening to this episode. Let me know in the comments. All right, I'll see you later. Bye.